Next up, I'd like to call Ms. Ammara Masood, who is the president and CEO of NdcTech. She brings with her over 28 years of experience in information technology and governance. She's worked across multiple countries in the field of tech. Thank you so much, Ms. Ammara, for joining us today on the gender-digital divide. But the first question that I had for our panelists here was that, data just seems a bit distant. So if you could all take a minute to share a personal experience or a personal anecdote from your work life or from generally, your personal life, which for you highlights or identifies this gender digital divide that we were just looking at in numbers.
Yes, I think I will talk a little bit from the aspect of women in technology and my experiences of what I have seen, because we hire a lot of people. And recently, if I talk about the last 5 years, I have definitely seen a lot of change to what it was maybe 20 years ago in Pakistan. And generally, I think towards all of the other Western countries as well. Women in technology have been a few, and even today, if you look at the statistics, some say only 20 or 25% of the women are in the technology sector, working in jobs of technology. And out of those, maybe 40 or 45% of the women actually leave in the first 3 years of their job, which is a huge number. And from my own personal experiences, there are two things which have really helped. One is that we need to definitely recognize that women, when they come into technology, there are two things which kind of become an inhibitor for them to progress further. One is that technology jobs are very, very time taking. And anybody who comes into a job which is related to technology needs to know that it is a big commitment for them. And many times their family members will not allow them to be supportive of that process. I think what also happened during the COVID days was that many of the women who actually had come in to work in the technology, and when they were supposed to start working from home, there was a big balance that they could not actually maintain, because they could not produce. And we were seeing that, personally as well, from our own company's perspective, that women who started working from home were not able to produce because there were so many other family commitments from children and from their parents, etc. The other thing that I would also like to highlight is that the exposure of women in digital and technology jobs is also very limited. And I think if companies provide more flexibility in the kind of jobs that are provided for them, then, I have seen many, many examples of some women who are now leaders in my company, who basically, when they were exposed to international markets, when they were exposed to different areas of what they could achieve in technology, they have really, really been able to do a lot. And I think, it is not, something which can be done at scale today in Pakistan, because we have to fix a little bit on the education side as well. We have to have more numbers which come from there, so that more, and then there has to be a lot of mentorship for women in technology to be able to progress on their careers, and for that number to be lower.
Great, thank you so much. And I think this speaks volumes about the kind of things that are being produced, right? So if you're not going to have women on the table in the design side, in the AI side, in the data side, the use case for what is being created is really going to go down for women. So, when we talk about getting women on the decision tables, so they have input into decisions about UIs, about, what the app is going to do and how technology is going to empower them. If you're not going to have enough women on the back end, they're not going to be able to create those use cases for women on the front end. So thank you so much for highlighting that. So Ms. Ammara, just sort of talking more about what you said in your opening statement about opportunities and women's representation in tech. So, you talked a bit about what private sector entities can do, in terms of flexibility, and what you, as a woman leader in your own organization, have been able to do, to retain women and to help them sort of succeed. What do you think can be done at the public policy level to have more women be part of the tech sector in terms of jobs? And if there's something else that you'd like to share on the private sector side, also more in depth in terms of what can be done to not just recruit them, but also retain them and then grow them into these leadership positions.
Yeah. So I think, if we talk about the public sector, what I remember from the earlier days when I went to university in Pakistan, there was a system of reserved seats, basically there were reserved seats for people, men or women, coming from remote areas. And there was a system of reserved seats for women. And now when I reflect back, actually that was a pretty good system. And it encouraged women to come into the, at that time in education. But also there was the same system which continued to be in the public sector as well. So many organizations where women wanted to join. So I think we should apply probably something similar, here as well in the tech sector, whether it is from education point of view, where we want to encourage more women to come in. As I said, the percentage of women right now is very low. So maybe what we need to create is some kind of a quota system where we have reserved seats for women to come into ICT and a STEM type of education. Because usually women will, whoever are coming into doing this, they don't know enough about what it means to be in the tech sector. Many of the parents think that if women are in the technology sector, that means they will be geeks and nobody will marry them, So that kind of also thing has to change, that impression has to change, and there has to be some system from the public policy level. The other thing, I think what in other countries, the STEM program is very heavily funded by the donor agencies and the governments. So I think something similar if we do in Pakistan as well, to encourage women where donor agencies come in to make sure that there are women who are directed into the technology sector. That would be very helpful. And I would say for the private sector, what would be most important is that they need to be sensitive to the fact that providing flexibility to women is very important. And I'll just, quote you a case which happened personally with somebody I used to work with. This person was very much committed to their career. In fact, they were the bread earner in the family. So the husband was working, but not in a very high-paying job. And the woman, she was basically, the main bread earner in the family. Had, 2 kids. And then, when I was, she was a colleague of mine, she came to me one day and she said that, I'm having my 3rd kid and I've come here to resign because, I'm not feeling very well, very sick and cannot, do it. So I said, okay, why don't you take a long leave and we can, look at our policy, whether we can support you for that long leave, and then you can think about whether you want to come back. So I went a little bit out of the way to help her, to take that, and then she did not come back till about a year. But a year later, she called me and she said, okay, now I'm ready to come back. And you supported me for the first 6 months, and then she took 6 months off. Now I'm ready to come back to my career. And now she is in one of the leadership positions in another company and doing really well. So I think these are some of the push and things that we have to realize. I mean, for me personally, honestly, I have always had this thing that I am no less than any man or woman, right? So I always compete for myself in that way. But not everybody is like that. You have to be sometimes realistic about that there are things which women need more caring, and you have to push that.
Great, thank you so much. So I think one of the key lessons from that is also how can we, really operationalize and sort of put this as part of the system so that if you're willing at a personal level, you're making leeway or you're giving flexibility to women colleagues or women employees, how can we make this part of HR systems? And I think inclusion of women in HR again is a big factor, where you can actually institutionalize these flexibilities for when they're needed. So thank you so much, for sharing that example.